new ad from the Trump War Room. It's everything you've hoped for and more. Ladies and gentlemen, here you go. It's 20 seconds long.
Well, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Oh, that's so freaking dumb.
So I was doing the morning show this morning, Timcast News on YouTube. Subscribe, and this was one of the stories we were covering. Of course, this has been for the past couple of days. And I said, I hope Donald Trump just takes what she said and then puts, I'm Donald Trump and I approve this message. But I'm not saying that because it's my idea. It's because he's done this before. So on YouTube, if you're just listening to regular stuff, I don't know, I've heard people say those listening to music, it all of a sudden, a commercial turns on where Kamala's like, the cost of gas is up. The cost of groceries are up and rent is up. And then it goes, I'm Donald J. Trump and I approve this message. That is some of the most effective campaigning I have seen. But we got another one because the Trump War Room posted this from the silent meme majority, and it is like, who wants to be a millionaire? Here you go.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Would you?
Okay, that one was very good.
That's
the
really
economy,
good.
the border, foreign policy. This is epic meme warfare.
Did you see them chanting about how we need change at one of her rallies?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah, no, she's like you said, they're trying to act like she's an outsider.
An underdog. She keeps saying, it makes me cringe. I'm the underdog. She's acting like Trump is in the White House right now.
Yeah.
Like Trump has been the president for the last 4 years. You are the vice president. You just said that you were part of almost every decision that Joe Biden made, but you are also the underdog. Come on.
Well, dude, no, she believes in Q. She believes in Q. She thinks that Trump is still the president.
She
and that he's been hiding behind the scenes and that he has the football and she's trying to get him out of the Oval Office.
I have been wondering what Q is up to.
She's pushing the underdog thing because she's a black, supposedly black minority. You know, she's a black woman supposedly. So she's trying to use her color as the reason why she is the underdog.
Right.
I think the most outrageous part about this question on The View is that it was actually supposed to be an easy question. She was supposed to say, yeah, Joe Biden, while being the president, obviously picking me to be his VP was imperfect. For example, she could have used the Afghan withdrawal pullout, how we pulled out and had over a dozen of our soldiers killed there after the fact. Something about how the border crisis has been extremely exacerbated under her and the Joe Biden administration. Something to differentiate herself, but The View accidentally asked a good question, I guess, because it put her between a rock and a hard place because she cannot condemn Joe Biden while trying to maintain the coalition.
But she can answer this in an effective way. Being a good politician, I'll throw it to the famous Gary Johnson Aleppo moment and the difference between Gary Johnson and Donald Trump. For those that don't know what the Aleppo moment is, many of you may be a little bit younger. And I mean, this was like, what, 8-9 years ago. Gary Johnson, running for president, is asked, what would you do about Aleppo, which, of course, is a major city in Syria, which has been flattened. And he goes, and what is Aleppo? And everybody was just like, you want to be the president and you don't know about a major foreign policy disaster happening right now in the Middle East? Now, Donald Trump, how would he answer this question if he truly didn't know about Aleppo? He'd say, everybody wants to talk about Aleppo. They do, but we got to talk about jobs. And I think once I'm in, we can deal with those things. He wouldn't just say, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so for Kamala Harris to be asked this question, what would you do differently? She could have said, you know, hindsight is 20/20. Knowing now, if I knew now, if I knew then what I knew now, I could win the lottery, right?
Yeah.
I'd go buy a lottery ticket. That's what I'd do differently. But the reality is we made the best decisions available to us at the time. Now I could say we could have done things better, but only because of what we dealt with. So it's the experience that I will bring in the next 4 years from the mistakes and the failures that everybody deals with it's going to make a better next 4 years. Like, that's how you answer that question.
Begs the question.
In other words,
what-
we can be unburdened by what was.
She was better off answering the question by saying she was raised in the middle class family.
It begs the question, if she wasn't going to do anything differently than Joe Biden, then why are you replacing Joe Biden at all? Why did we go through this entire primary process, pull the rug out from under Joe Biden at the last second, if you would have done nothing differently?
That,
What
to
is
me,
the
says
point
that
here?
you think he
What are we
deserves
doing
another 4
here?
years.
Actually,
and you
no.
have decided to
Let's
take
give
it.
her some
I
credit.
miss-
She
Kamala's
actually
making me miss
she
Joe.
actually was being honest. She was actually being honest this time.
No, I don't think she's being honest
point.
here.
She was
no,
she was being honest.
I think
she
so.
wouldn't do anything different.
No, I think
She was
she'd do
being
things
honest.
differently.
What do you think?
I think she'd do a lot of things differently. I think she just doesn't want to damage the coalition that she's maintaining.
I think she doesn't want to make Joe
Like,
Biden
different, you
mad
mean
because
worse?
she knows that Joe Biden will become vicious.
Yeah, I question a lot of what Kamala Harris would do if elected compared to Joe. I think she would be a lot more radical than Joe Biden.
I would agree with
Kamala
that,
is
to be
still
honest.
trying to figure out her plan for the next 4 years.
Her plan is to get elected, and then everything else is an
of course-
afterthought. That's
of
the
course
plan.
she
Get
don't know,
elected.
yeah.
If she was being honest, I'll give you this. She's saying, I don't know what I would do differently. I think it's fairly honest, but I kind of imagine she'd say something like, well, I'd have banned fracking right away. I would have put heavy restrictions on gas-powered vehicle manufacturing, probably shut down the auto industry in the Rust Belt. Like, that would be fairly honest, right?
Maybe not pick a backstabbing VP pick. You know, that was probably his
but-
number one mistake.
But let me also point out, Joe Biden shut down Keystone XL, which caused rampant speculation. And I got to break this down for you guys because the Democrats, they're in power. They have to obfuscate, okay? But Joe Biden banning fracking on public grounds and shutting down Keystone did make gas go up. It's actually very simple. We speculate, and sometimes, and people probably shouldn't make whatever argument you want, but people do. We plan how much is our economy going to grow by, and how much oil and energy, gas, nuclear, how much energy are we going to need to accommodate that growth? How do we achieve 3% growth? We need energy production. So when Joe Biden shuts down Keystone XL, which is a massive pipeline transporting tons of oil into the market, what happens then is the marketplace then says, we can now expect X amount negative percentage in the future, which means there will be less energy for use in expanding the economy. This means the demand on oil will go up and prices will go up. This means two things happen. First, speculation. People say, I better buy up shares and I better buy up supply now and hold on to it because the price will go up. Others say, I'm going to start stocking up now because the price will go up to use, and then the increase in demand instantly causes the prices to go up. When Kamala Harris says, I wouldn't do anything differently, understand that right when he got in, Joe Biden's like, shut down energy. And now Kamala's saying, I wouldn't ban fracking. I'm not for that. She said she was for it back in 2019. And I won't play that game. Fine. She says she was opposed to it right now. Okay, well, how about this? She was asked what she would do differently in the next 4 years. Well, in her administration, she was the tie-breaking vote on a whole bunch of this garbage, the Inflation Reduction Act. And if you look at what Joe Biden did energy-wise, it did not work well for us. Simply put.
No, it's true. Well, there's an additional element here, which is the reason Joe Biden had to leave the race. And by the way, remember all of the people who told you that he was sharp as a tack are the people telling you that Kamala's fit for the job. But the reason he had to leave and step out of the race is because it became very obvious to the American people, once they all saw him on that debate stage, that this is somebody who is so advanced in their cognitive decline that they're not capable of making decisions. And anyone who's been paying attention to politics as far back as the bygone year of 2019 could have told you that in 2019, because he was spewing out very senile, demented sounding statements, even during the Democratic primary debates. So let's think about this for a moment. We finally admitted that for the past 4 or 5 years, this man has been too deep in his cognitive decline to really run the country. So who do we decide to replace him with? Someone he picked. Someone he picked when he was in cognitive decline. So he's not in a place where he can run the country because his cognitive decline is too advanced.
Right.
But he is in a place where we could trust him to pick a successor.
I mean,
that's
but
insane.
Do you actually
That's
think he
self-refuting.
personally picked
No,
Kamala
I don't
Harris?
think he-
No.
I don't think
it
he
was a staffer
personally-
or an advisor or someone else on his campaign, 100%. And I think that's the pipeline. We talk about the White House or the DNC to media pipeline, but I think that is what a lot of staffers are banking on right now. After Kamala Harris announced that, or after Joe Biden announced that Kamala Harris was going to run by endorsing her, there were several people who left the White House to join her campaign. They want to stay in the executive branch for as long as possible, and they couldn't make Joe Biden, they couldn't hold that puppet up anymore, and so they're jumping on the Kamala Harris bandwagon because to them, it's all kind of the same company, just rebranded.
No, you're exactly right, because at this point, if you're talking about the people who the Democrats are putting up for elected office, they are just mascots of a specific regime.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, I don't think Kamala's wrong when she says, I'm not going to do anything differently than Joe Biden. Elaad, I hear your point that she probably will do things that are worse, but the reality is I think she is just going to be the face of what the regime has wanted to do all along and move further to the left on all of these issues.
It's hard to say exactly what you will get out of Kamala Harris because she has flopped on all the issues, as Whitaker in his 60 Minutes interview with her kind of exposed. But I am inclined to believe that she would be further to the left, not only on foreign policy, but when she was running for president in the primary, she was for Medicare for all. She was for government-sponsored sex change operations for illegal immigrants. She was strictly for gun control and so on. She's flopped on a lot of those issues, so it's tough to pin her down exactly. But I believe her inklings and it leans left.
Yeah,
I think I would say more than leans
further left than Joe Biden.
Yeah, she's gonna be 10 times worse than Joe Biden. And also, Kamala is literally one of the dumbest politicians in the history of this country. And so somebody, and I don't think it was Joe who chose her, whoever chose her was also telling Joe Biden what to do. They was making decisions for Joe as well. And whoever chose her, Kamala's going to have to do whatever they say. So that is now that's really scary because we really don't know who the hell is making these decisions. Who the hell is really running the show?
Well, we also know part of the reason that Joe chose Kamala was because he promised that he was going to pick a woman of
Joe
color.
didn't choose Kamala.
Well,
somebody
but
chose.
He went on. We can quibble over that, but when he went on stage, he said he's going to pick a woman of color.
Yeah.
And then he picked Kamala.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is he's trying to pander to progressives. One thing I will say about Kamala, as opposed to Joe Biden, even though I think they're both terrible, is while Kamala Harris is clearly a puppet of the regime, part of why I think she's dangerous is because she also clearly has her own opinions. She really is clearly to the left. I don't really think Joe Biden has opinions on issues. He's always been a follower of the Democratic Party. He's pretty much just always gone along with the party line and changed his opinions based on whatever he's been told to say by whatever the orthodoxy is. Kamala Harris is someone who was ranked one of the most liberal politicians in the country. She clearly is based on the things you pointed out about wanting to give sex changes to illegal immigrants. Her stance on abortion is very far to the left, though Joe's is as well. I guess my point is just that she really is a leftist ideologue. I think Joe Biden is going to do the bidding of leftist ideologues because that's where the party is, but I don't think he actually believes it. I don't think he actually believes in anything.
Do you think this is part of the generational difference? I mean, she is younger than him. She's not young by any means, but to me, there is a difference between a California prosecutor who entered politics slightly after Joe Biden, because at that point there was a cultural shift, I believe, among the Democrats already. When Joe Biden entered, I mean, you can look back at his record in the Senate, there were all kinds of positions that he had that he kind of shifted on so he could pursue the presidency in modern America.
Yeah.
Terrence, I wanted to ask, so you're obviously a black man. The Joe Biden campaign, before, during the primary,
fact checker here.
I'm chocolate.
So, I mean, could you talk a little bit more to how people of color view Kamala Harris? Earlier, you were mentioning, you were putting air quotes up for her being really black and whatnot. Yeah. She's obviously black passing. Maybe you could talk a little bit more to that.
Well, you know what? I will say this. Kamala Harris does not have the same support as Barack Obama did with the black community.
And why do you think
more
that is?
Black people supported Barack Obama than they support Kamala Harris? Well, this is one thing. This is something that now I've had people say, Terrence, quit bringing up race. No, I'm going to bring up race because they are using the color of her skin to help her win over votes. Well, one thing about black people is this. Black people will denounce someone who has a history of not accepting their race, like where they come from as well. So some black people are saying, so there are a lot of black people who thinks Kamala Harris is a traitor because she went years with identifying as an Indian. So they're like, well, why come she didn't identify as Indian and black? Why did she run as an Indian senator? Why didn't she run as an Indian and black senator?
Let me ask, you mentioned that Obama was...
So they say, well, she's not a real black person because she identified as Indian for the longest. And black people do not like that. They do not like that because in their eyes, they think she's ashamed to be black. So therefore, she's not really black, and we're not going to vote for you. And that's why it is important for that's why I think it's important for a lot of black people to know that, hey, Kamala Harris she identified as being Indian for the longest. She didn't identify as black. They don't like that.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.